Hey guys! In this video, we'll show how to use uDraper to create a native Unreal geometry cache for simulated clothes. You can use this geometry cache in your projects without needing the uDraper plugin. In this scene, we've got our character all set up with uDraper components, including a dress and a jacket as draper garments. For this tutorial, let's open the Draper Editor panel and change the skirt's fabric opacity mode from masked to translucent. Don't forget to save your changes. Notice for each piece of clothing there's a dedicated cache section. By default, the backface setting is separated, and the codec is set to V1. We'll delve deeper into these settings later, but for now, let's stick with the defaults. Next, all we need to do is open the sequencer with our animation. What's really neat is that we don't need to fuss with bringing in extra event trigger tracks into the sequencer like we had to before. All we need to do is select the Render Movie option, pick uDraper Cache, and choose where we want to save it. A window will pop up, showing your animation while the cache is recorded. At the bottom of the window, you can see the current frame and elapsed time. You can wait until the sequence is completed or interrupted at any time. Let's hang on and allow the animation to finish. Let's navigate to our cache folder. In there, you'll find all the stored materials, textures, and of course, our geometry cache file. Now, let's select everything and save it. With that done, we can now easily drag and drop the cache asset into our scene. However, you might notice that the skirt with the translucent material doesn't appear correctly. This is because we need to enable the Render Custom Depth Pass option for our geometry cache. Now that we've activated the Render Custom Depth Pass option, our translucent material looks much better. Unfortunately, this setting can't be saved along with the geometry cache itself. It needs to be applied manually each time you work with a cache containing translucent materials. One of the great advantages of using the geometry cache is that we can bring it into the sequencer, add a geometry cache track, and play it right in the viewport like this. Alternatively, we can render a movie in any scene or project without the need for the uDraper plugin. Now that we're done with the uDraper components, we can turn them off and attach our new cache to the character. Let's set its location to 0 and start rendering the movie. This time around, there's no need for any cloth simulation since we're simply playing back our geometry cache. When recording the geometry cache, remember to capture the clothes simulation for each character separately. Then, you'll be able to play them all together seamlessly as we're going to show in a few minutes. Alright, let's dive into the details of the geometry cache settings. As we've already noticed, the default setting for backface is separated. This means that the cache will encompass all the geometry for the front side, back side, and edges of the garments. Alternatively, you can opt for embedded for backface. In this scenario, only geometry for the front side will be included in the cache, and you'll need to use your own two-sided material. By default, we use V1 compression for the codec. There's also the option to use raw uncompressed data, which results in larger file sizes. Another noteworthy setting is omit constant streams. This option can shrink your cache file by about 30%. However, we've observed that enabling this compression can lead to GPU driver crashes when hardware ray tracing is enabled. Let's give it a try. I'll enable the Omit Constant Streams option for both garments. But before we capture a new cache, let's take a peek at the size of our previous cache file. It's nearly 800 megabytes. Now, let's record the same animation with the Omit Constant Streams option selected. Done! Now, let's check the file size. It's 640 megabytes instead of 800 megabytes, so it's smaller. However, do keep in mind that it might pose some challenges when using hardware ray tracing. If you're not using hardware ray tracing though, it shouldn't be an issue for you. Let's put these settings to the test. I'm adding the new geometry cache track to the sequencer. But here's the catch: if I try to tweak it by rotating it, bam, we get hit with a GPU driver crash. So, a word of caution, folks, use this feature carefully when you're working with hardware ray tracing. Moving on, let's capture another animation, this time with a different dress. And why stop there? Let's cache a third animation, this one with yet another dress. Now, we've got 3 cache simulations, each with its own dress and unique animations. With our cache files at the ready, we can drag them into our level. At this point, we can either disable all simulations or go ahead and remove the Draper components altogether. But wait, there's one more thing: don't forget to enable the Render Custom Depth Pass option to handle our translucent materials correctly. Now, we need to add all these geometric caches to the sequencer and add geometry cache tracks for each of them so we can test that all 3 are playing their own animations altogether. Once we're satisfied with our cached animations, we can get our characters ready for movie rendering. To do this, I'm just going to add that geometric cache into our Harley's blueprint. Again, make sure to enable the Render Custom Depth Pass option to render our translucent materials correctly. Let's drop our characters into the scene and give them their own geometry cache. Finally, it's time to set up an animation sequence. There we go, bringing our characters there. Setting up the animations. And laying down those cache tracks. Now, when our characters with geometry caches are prepped and ready, we can play them in our level or seamlessly render a video, all without worrying about garment simulations. Happy animating, everyone!